welcome to the third episode of Just Dudes Being Guys. It's Reid and Dylan, the beef noodle Taylor, but he
Please
also
don't
like
refer to me as that.
But his main nickname apparently was Pickles. So,
Not Pickles, Pickle. My nickname is Pickle. Little reason for that. Name's Dylan. There's a thing called Dill Pickles. Dill and Dill Pickle. See, there's a reason why his name Pickle. This kid doesn't ever believe that, but
nope.
I just call it in baseball.
I don't.
Call it in golf, but. So today's episode, we're going to be just talking about college. Everything from what we expected, what our high schools taught us college would be like, to teachers, to what it actually is like. And that can range anything from financial aid to classes we've had, cafeteria food, some more in depth on that, sports, just the overall welcome to college experience.
So for me, coming from a private Christian school, I was kind of told that the college experience would be a lot different because nobody's going to really care about you being a Christian, and that the professors aren't going to care about you at all, and also they're referring more, I guess, to bigger schools. And so St. Leo's a lot different because of the class size. The largest one I had was only like 25 people, which is fairly on par with the class sizes at my high school.
Yeah, my high school is roughly the same. Anywhere between 15 and 25 people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I came from a public school up in Illinois, but it was very Catholic dominated because we had a Catholic school that would come over to the high school after 8th grade, and the Catholic churches dominated our area. So, like, coming into the Catholic school here at St. Leo, I was kind of already exposed to it, but not really, because of, one, the teachers here were very strict, I think, on Catholic if you take the religion courses, and it's just really odd sometimes just to see a gaggle of monks and nuns just go across campus.
But also what's even funnier is that there's one or two monks that actually ride around campus on longboards or like penny boards.
Oh yeah,
like
I think
a skateboard.
Sebastian's one of them. He's really cool.
It's one of the greatest things I've actually seen here on campus, and that's like a great sports game or like good times with friends. So like that's easily like top 3.
Yeah, because
things.
like the vision that you have of a monk is very holy, I guess you could say, and like very straightforward and stern in appearance. And he's just chilling with a backpack and a longboard, and he's just like, what are you doing?
And also you see his cloak like flapping in the wind. Like,
so he looks like a superhero.
It's like those
at the same time.
Like in the hair commercials, like when the models like flip the hair, like
commercials?
Or no, like any like shampoo commercial. And the model, she just flicks her hair to like show how full it is and all that crazy stuff. That's kind of what I like. It's just like this glorious flowing of cloth trailing behind them. And back to my high school. So my college, I don't even know what to call them. Like this lady was kind of in charge with like the seniors and juniors of meeting with them about their college aspirations, and she'd always tell me that I need to get my grades up and my SAT scores. But little did she know that St. Leo seems to accept just about everyone.
If you have a beating heart and you have a brain, you're in St. Leo.
Yeah.
And that's pretty sad because the admissions goes up by 300 or 400 every year, and people have to move because they can't house that many people that they accept.
Yeah, and last year they were actually sophomores.
Yeah, they were putting seniors and juniors up in freshman housing because they ran out of space.
Yeah, and that makes parking even worse, parking here is kind of a joke. I mean, it's not, for the most part, you just park in the garage and that's that.
Yeah, it's really no big deal, but you always want to park in your garage, your lot.
Yeah.
But even on Saturday nights or Friday nights at 12 o'clock after you go to Walmart or Taco Bell, there's all the parking lots are full, and it's come on, it's college, go out and drink so we can have a spot to park in.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really no big deal. Just go park in the garage and walk an extra 500 feet. But That's just college kids being privileged.
And then when I got to school, the school workload really wasn't that big a deal for me because I came from a really the best way to put it, like a really top tier
Yeah,
high
because
school.
weren't all your classes like honor classes?
Technically, they're all honors classes,
Yeah.
and so I had like for all of my literature classes, for example, I had to write about 5 pages in about an hour for just a test. And
That sounds brutal.
yeah, it was a little rough, and also I had to do a ton of presentations. Like I've doing like at least like elementary school, we would do like 2 presentations a year. It was like third grade we had a bird project, fifth grade we had a sea creature and a European country, and presentations all the time, no big deal. Senior year, you write a paper, and then you present in front of a panel of faculty, and then after you kind of present it, you don't read the whole paper, like you're on a 5 minute time limit, and then they question you about it, and you have to defend your argument and your point. And so
I would have liked that type of class in my high school. My high school is just go in, do the coursework, do a presentation or a paper, then you get your diploma. My high school is pretty easy to graduate from. But
yeah. And so, for instance, kind of the transition from high school to college, Dylan and I had a math class. It was on Tuesday, Thursday.
Mrs.
First,
was it
first
Fraser?
semester? No, it was
Yeah.
Paris.
Oh, Paris.
It was the first
Paris is
semester,
best.
I think.
recommend taking her.
Yeah. If you want to have a good time, take Paris. And Tuesday, Thursday, 11 o'clock, we go in, and for some reason I got put in the, basically, it was a really basic math.
It was like
course.
Intro to Math College Edition, which was like advanced algebra, if that, in high school.
It would be like Algebra 1, basically. And so she's doing like math problems, and I'm just sitting there with my mug, and I brought a pencil sharpener because I like to use pencils in class, like a hand crank, bulky.
He always made a statement when it came out because it just clunked on the desk.
And like when I would put it down on the table, it did make a kind of a thunk sound. It would make a thunk noise, and then you hear a like when I would sharpen the pencil. But like throughout the whole class, I would be slouching back, and I just say the answers of the problem.
To say how nonchalant and relaxed he was saying the answers is an understatement. The answer would be like 5y, and it'd take everybody like a good 30 seconds to figure it, and he just, as soon as she'd write it, he'd have the answer down. And it's like, this man should not be in this math class.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not like the best at math. Like I'm pretty good at it, but I like for that room, I was like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, or Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind. Like I was like, as far as all the other students go, I was probably like the stupid smart one that everyone would be like, "Ugh, I hate this guy. He's going to get hundreds on all the tests." I didn't, but nonetheless. So after class, we're all walking out. And as I'm walking, Paris, the professor, pulls me aside, and she looks me dead in the eye and goes, "Why the hell are you in my classroom?" And I just go, "I honestly don't know. I was just put here." And so then she said, "Okay, well, since you can't really do anything about it, you don't really have to be here." And so,
This is so stupid.
If you don't want to show up, then you really don't have to. And if in the middle of the class and you're bored, you can just get up and walk out.
Like, most colleges have a TA, and they really don't care, like, if you're there or not. But, like, this lady had a classroom of 25 people, if that.
Probably.
And told him, "You don't have to be here. I don't care. Just show up for the tests."
Yeah.
Like, that's how good this kid was at this mediocre math.
Yeah, I mean, it was just your basic algebra that you learn in like middle school or something like that. And I don't know, that was probably one of the more interesting things that's happened to me in a class, is that I realized I was like, wow,
I just don't have to be here.
This is going to be in probably a fairly easy 4 years. The only classes that have been fairly difficult were my major classes, but that's because I never took like any sort of law classes
Yeah,
in
the
high
major
school.
classes here are. There's a big jump between just taking an elective or a gen ed or a minor class and then jumping into your major class. Like,
Oh yeah,
it goes from a 200 level class to a 400 level class in this blink of an eye, and your workload, your class, like the subjects taught are infinitely harder than anything that the school offers.
plus when you take an extra like elective class, so for the gen eds and kind of your like electives for your major, the teachers know, like they're aware of the kind of class that they're teaching. So for a lot of the gen eds, they won't care as much and they won't hold you to as strict of a standard, sort of. But like your major class, they're gonna be like, okay, well you should, if you're like, since everyone here is, in my instance, a criminal justice major, everyone should know all this stuff, and so then they hold you to like a little bit of a higher standard, just
Yeah,
because.
like if you don't get like a B at least in their class, they
Yeah.
look down upon you
Right.
in a sense of saying, "Wow, you didn't even try," and like you might have tried your ass off, but you got a C, like a C plus in the class, and you couldn't help it. That was the best you could have done. But even then, your teacher will be like, "You could have done better. I don't know what happened," and so you really got to take. You do have to take your gen eds or your major elective classes a little serious, because your teachers will know or expect you to do this quality of work and everything.
Yeah. Another fun class was, it was a religion class, and it was with this
All
guy.
the religion classes here
It
are
was
interesting.
it was with Eric Theodore.
Theodore, he's from the island, man.
Yeah, he didn't really specify which island. He just said he was from the islands, man. And then he would always like, I think there might have been one person in my class that was from, like the Caribbean or however.
One could assume by his accent he was from Jamaica, and by the choice of playing Bob Marley before every class almost.
Yeah, and like he would always like joke around with that one kid in my class who was from the islands, and it was pretty funny. Like before a quiz, he didn't want us to stress out and everything, and right before the quiz, we actually went over what was going to be on the quiz, and that class is probably the typical St. Leo Gen Ed class. Like the teacher's fairly laid back. The workload really wasn't that much. I kind of already knew everything in that class because I went to a Christian school and I grew up going to church every week and went to summer camps with my church, so I know the Bible fairly well, and at least I like to think so. And so he's asking all these questions of what happened in this book or what happened in that book, and everyone's quiet, and I'm like, oh, I know the answer, but I don't want to.
You don't want to be that guy that answer the questions, because that happens a lot in all of my classes. Like, I'm a history buff, and a lot of my poli-sci classes deal with like history from like law cases, court cases, and all this stuff. And like, I know the answer right off the bat, and nobody answers it. And then like the teacher, like Riminelli for example, he'll just look at me. He never knows my name though. He'll always just specify what I'm wearing. He'll be like, red shirt, like, and he'll tell me that he'll call me that all class. Then he'll be like, blue hat, and like he knows my name, but he just won't call me by my name. And I'll always have to answer the question because nobody else wants to answer it, because it's either make him get mad and he'll answer it, or just man up and say it. And at some point you do have to just say screw it, just answer it just to move the class along, because some teachers get mad and they'll assign homework or papers because nobody answered a question or wants to do discussion work.
Yeah.
And that's really annoying, especially with teachers like Campion and stuff like that. Like, she'll just be like, oh, nobody answered the question, so looks like we're going to do a paper. And I can't stand her.
So honors class, I had Campion for a class.
Oh, Campion.
And it was last semester. The content of the class was great, and I loved it. And she basically ruined it. So
she ruins everything.
So she's from France, and she likes to kind of throw out there all the time that she's from France, and so
Oh, oui, oui.
And so she's like, "Oh, I don't know how to still have my accent." And I'm like, "Oh, it's probably because you're really proud of being French, and so you're going to stick with that probably till the day you die." But anyway, um, so we were talking about Adam Smith and free market and capitalism and all that, which was great. And um, she started playing devil's advocate when we were discussing it and all that. And I was like, okay, that's fine because
That's what
like
the teacher's supposed
you,
to do.
like you
Supposed
need
to
to
challenge you and all
you
that
need to have
type of
someone
stuff.
who either some student in the class who throws out an opposing view so that you can keep discussing the idea, or the teacher does it so that she helps round out the discussion so that all the students aren't just going along with the same idea, because it's easier for everyone to agree on a topic than just get that over with than to actually discuss their ideas and stand up for what they believe in, which is something that really pissed me off, not only in high school but like in college as well.
Yeah, like, it's sad because a lot of times I'm very conflicting and I like to throw my opinion out there, which is very against the mainstream most of the time. And kids will just conform with your opinion, even though I know for a fact that they're against it, and just be like, "Oh yeah, I agree with that." And I'm like, "No, you don't. Like, please challenge me on that." And like nobody does, and it's really annoying.
And like in high school, it was usually whenever I was talking with friends over like trivial things like music or whatever, I would say, "Oh, I actually like this music. They're pretty good." And then my friends who like they weren't really the type to listen to that sort of music or whatever, they would just kind of go, "Oh yeah, they're pretty good." Or if we were talking about video games, because I hung out with the slightly nerdier group of friends in my class, we talk about games and we or discuss any sort of idea, and if whoever asserted their idea and their beliefs first and the strongest, like everyone would just fall in line with them. But anyway, so back to this honors class. So we're talking about free enterprise, free market, capitalism, Adam Smith, and all that, and it's going great.
The best form of society.
It's true. And so then we get to Marx, and I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And so then she starts comparing the negative side of capitalism to the positive side of Marx. And in my head, because I didn't want to like delay the class any further than like kind of I've already done by bringing up like points and arguments and all that, I go in my head I'm thinking, you can't do that. Like if you're going to compare one thing to another, you should like if you want to make a
both state
if you want
their good things and not just saying this is bad, this is good, and saying that's that.
If you want to state like have a good comparison, then either compare the same aspect of
whatever it is that you're
of
arguing.
both systems, compare those to each other or contrast the two, but don't like say the bad side of this one is A, but B on side B of this system is really good, so then that cancels that out. I mean, it's not like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to it, and it was really annoying because she always wanted you to state not the right answer, but
the
her
answer, the answer that fitted her mold,
right?
Which was the worst because she did the same exact thing in my not intro to sociology, some sociological issues in society, and I remember very vividly in class, she was like, "Okay, Dylan, you are you work at a bank. Please name 3 occupations at a bank." And I said, "Okay, there's a bank teller, there is a financial expert, and then there's an accountant." And she just looked at me, and she goes, "Accountants don't work at banks. They work at accounting firms." I'm like, "Bitch, what?" Because every bank that I've ever gone inside of, even big ones, like my big SunTrust branch down in Port Charlotte, they have like 4 or 5 accountants just sitting there waiting for you to help with your stuff. Like, accountants work within banks. Yeah, they also work outside of banks. And I tried telling her, like, no, accountants work in banks. I have my family has a personal accountant inside of a bank. Like, that's the job. She goes, no, accountants don't work at banks. And just, I was like, you don't just say that and say that's the answer whenever there's proof. And like, if it doesn't fit her mold, she won't accept it.
Plus, she also favors like women over guys because she's also a feminist. And so we all had to do a presentation on a topic. I did mine and I actually presented it really well. She said I was easy to follow along and all this other stuff. And I missed a couple things and she pointed that out. And then I wound up getting a 76 on it, which is a load of BS. And then a friend of mine, she presents hers and she does pretty good, about the same level as me, and then she uses a source in the middle of her presentation. Camping goes, "Oh, that's from the Heritage Foundation," and so that's not a good. That's like a more conservative site, so then they might skew the data a little bit, and then like.
Oh yeah, with sources
but
too.
But also
she's awful on sources.
She had that complaint, and like I didn't hear like what else she had to complain about the presentation, but my friend wound up getting like a 96 on the presentation. So it's really stupid. And then on the exam, I got a low 80-ish because I wrote down what the actual correct facts were about each thing. And a friend of mine wrote down what she would want to hear and got a A on it.
Yeah. We had a thing in that sociology class. It was today's news type of little like paper, and she said you can use articles such as HuffPost, Washington Post, New York Times, New York Post, all those type of things because they're credited and good types of sources for any type of news. So I do an article on the Huffington Post, written by the Huffington Post, and she comes back and says, "No, you can't do that. You're getting docked half a grade, like 2 grades, because you used Huffington Post." I'm like, "But you said we can use Huffington Post." She goes, "No, only use New York Times." I'm like, "It's in your syllabus to use Huffington Post or any type of credited news source." She goes, "No, just use New York Times." And I got a C on the paper because I used a news source that she had in there, but she didn't like at the time.
Oh, plus we had to do a reflection paper on what
so
if
it's asshat backwards.
Yeah, and another example of her being asshat backwards is that she gave us a reflection paper, which is just like kind of, you have a topic and then you just kind of write on it, but also not too colloquial, which is apparently a problem for writing on a page, and she said this was a college paper. And so me using a little bit more colloquial language, because it wasn't like an actual like cite your sources type of official college paper, the topic was what if you were the other gender. And so I wrote about what if I was a girl, because that's what I would be if I was the other gender. And so I said that based on what I know of my family, in the environment that I grew up in, and a lot of other factors, or just thinking about my childhood, I would probably end up the same, just a little bit different, and I would cite those differences. And then she's like, "You didn't take into account these factors, this, that, and this, like X, Y, and Z, Q, 5, 7, pi, the mass of the sun. And also you're basing these on stereotypes." And the same friend who got a better grade on the presentation, she did hers she did it solely on stereotypes. If she was a guy, and she got a 9 out of 10 or something like on that. And it's incredible the amount of BS.
There's so much bias that happens within any type of opinionated class if you do not fit the teacher's mold. Like the amount of how much your grade is affected is greatly higher than somebody that just agrees with you. And it's really, really bad that the school does this. Like, I had a class with another sociology teacher, and the class was dominated by black females, and there were 2 white people in the class, me and another girl, and the teacher was black. And anytime any type of statistics for inner city stuff would come up, I would be like, "Hold up, those are wrong, those are skewed, these are the real facts." My facts and opinion would be shot down instantly. And I went to class for 2 weeks straight not talking at all for the class. And the teacher asked me, and some students asked me, Dylan, why don't you talk in class? We really like having you talk in class. And I'm like, okay, just watch this. And we were talking about homicide rates in Chicago. And I'm like, oh, I'm from Illinois, I know those rates. It's extremely high, and people die like 20 times a day in Chicago. And I gave out facts for the 2016 like homicide report, and the girls were like, but no, you're looking at that wrong. Those are gang related. And I'm like, I was like, see, it doesn't matter. Whatever I say, you people are just going to shut it down. And I'm like, if you do not follow their mold, and with me being a white person, not saying that discrimination or any sense, but like it is heavily in that ballpark of saying my opinion isn't as valid as theirs. And it was really, really annoying, considering that I'm extremely open-minded, but facts are facts. I'm going to say them.
Yeah. But what I will say about Prince that Campion lacks and that she should actually learn, for being a doctor, she's actually not too bright about some of this stuff, you know. And so Prince will actually hear your opinion and actually have a conversation about it, and she actually might get swayed about it.
Prince will challenge you, which is a good thing.
But like, she's not closed-minded about it. She actually might change her opinion a little bit on it. However,
not a lot, but it's enough to at least make her think, which is a definite plus from Campion.
However, she said a couple of things in class without really giving any sort of context with it. She kind of just stated like the point, but like she stated the illustration, and she didn't really she kind of gave half a point, and she didn't even give an explanation. So, for instance, we were talking about feminism and all that, and how, I don't know, like,
it's the new world order.
And she said in 1985, Rush Limbaugh called feminists or women feminazis, and then just left it at that. Didn't even like pull up it or explain any of the context of what he's talking about. And in my head, because my parents grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh, I'm thinking, hey, I know that he doesn't just say things just for the hell of just saying it. I know he has a point behind it. I know that he's really articulate and intelligent about it. And if you look at probably the context, it'll probably give a lot clearer meaning as to what he's directing that comment towards. Maybe he's calling a bunch of women feminazis. I don't know. I don't know exactly what she's talking about. But I do know that I've heard him talk about the type of feminist that will shut you down because you have a different opinion, or because you have a twig and berries dangling between your legs, or that you have a lighter count of melanin in your skin as opposed to someone else. And those people have been called feminazis. I've seen that all over like the internet and social media and stuff.
Come back with all this bullshit that's happening now in the world.
Right, and she didn't give any context as to the points that she's given. She kind of just said this, that,
this is
that,
it.
And this, and boom, we're done. And
this is it, and we're moving on.
And
yeah, she did that a bunch in all my classes, and I was just like, but there's facts and there's meaning, and why are you doing this?
Yeah, and actually in this honors class, it's a utopia dystopia class, and the big project is that you get to create your own utopia dystopia. And in the beginning, we were kind of talking about what is utopia, what is dystopia, and this one person, they're like, dude, man, you gotta have like a strong government, man.
Oh, government's gotta have all the power. Give them all the power.
Like, you have to have a strong government so that they can prevent crimes to happen, and so that people can be free to do what they want. And and a lot of the things that they wanted, like the type of government they're advocating for and the type of results that they wanted, didn't really connect, and it was kind of funny to me. And
there was a kid in my American federal government class, and we were talking about strong central governments or more free republics like we have right now. Because we're not a democracy, we're a republic.
Yep.
But he was like, we need to be very centralized like Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is great, and America's detailing from that. I just looked at him and go, is Ethiopia a first world country? He goes, no. I go, well, then we don't need a strong central government. I go, we do need one, but we don't need one strong like that. And he goes, but but in order for us to do what we want and to have protection and all stuff, we need to have the central government to be as strong as possible. I'm like, that's a dictatorship, and that hasn't worked well in the world. Just look at Nazi Germany, look at Iraq, look at Libya. Literally any country in the Far East has had a dictator, which is almost all of them. It has been horrible. And he's like, no, we got to do it like this. And like, no, I'm sorry, sir, just shut up. And everybody in that class is so like, oh my God, Donald Trump's our president. We're all going to hell. This is just going to be awful. And I just looked at everybody. I'm like, y'all have no hope. You're also pessimistic. Like, you gotta look at the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, we might be in a shit situation right now, but like, hope a little bit. Give some backing to what's going to happen. Hope for the best. Like, if you don't have any hope, I know it's a really, really cliche and stupid thing to say, is have some hope, but like, come on, kid. Like, you're 18 to 22 years old. I don't know how old you are. Like, do something, give a little bit into it, and have some hope for the future.
And another thing, and I guess this kind of falls under some life advice that we're actually giving, that's actually a little bit more on the sincere side, is to just be genuine as a person. Like, if you believe something, you should stand up for what you believe in, and also
follow it through.
Not just
don't just half-ass it. Follow it through.
Don't just stand up for what you believe in, but also know why you believe what you believe. I know,
like if it comes to it, you got to be aggressive and stand your ground. Like, don't be pushed over.
Right, and then but don't make it so it's an antagonistic conversation. Make sure you can talk to the person and dialogue with them, and if they start
have an equal amount of attack and defense. Like, if they point out something that's wrong with your opinion, come back with facts and some meaning behind it, and be on the attack. And if they attack you with stuff that's something against you, be sure to back that up. Like, have a solid foundation for what you think and believe in.
Right, and it's really refreshing if people actually did that, and then it's just oh, okay, I'm just gonna go with this because it's gonna be less confrontational. There are moments when you shouldn't be
don't interject at certain very I guess you could say touchy areas. I mean, politics is one, I guess you could say, because of what's going on in the world. But there's areas to say to go in and talk and give your opinion, and there's areas just to sit back, just let it happen.
And you also have to be aware of the place that you're at, and it might not be appropriate for you to speak out then and there. You could pull the person aside either after class or at a more appropriate setting and say, hey, let's talk about this, because I think that
you have some good points, I have some good points. Let's see if we can find a middle ground.
And see, exchange ideas and see what the other person actually believes.
Because I've had many conversations go like that, and I've become friends with them, and I talk to them, and it's a good thing whenever people actually have a debate, challenge each other, and then everybody's at the end's oh, yeah, that's cool. Let's keep talking about this. Or it's okay, you gave your opinion, I'm gonna stay with mine and not agree, and then you just go your separate ways, and that's all there is to it.
And that's perfectly fine. But also, you might find that you and that person have the same idea. It's just you either been using different terms to describe it, or you're coming at it from a slightly different angle, and that sort of thing.
That's something that St. Leo, I think, really needs to work on, is allowing free flow of ideas and opinions, and not to be instantly judged or shot down, because I feel like that happens between students in classes. Some teachers do really well and allow it to happen, like Frank Orlando and Dr. Reynolds. They do a great job of allowing students to let out their opinions and ideas, and then continue with class like nothing happened. That's how a lot of classes should be, but a lot of them don't do that.
And also, if you take the Supreme Court class with Dr. Sillo, it's another really good class to take, because you get a case for the week or something like that, week and a half, and then you read about it, and you come and you talk about the decision that was made. And so you can side one way, you can side the other, and so you actually have people that will discuss different viewpoints and how they would rule on these court cases. And so they'll make sure that everyone knows, hey, this, well, he says no answer is right or wrong. And if someone says something, you need to be respectful of their opinion and address it in a respectful manner. And you can't just go after someone and berate someone for just stating what they believe in, which I think is
a
really
fantastic way
Yeah.
to go about teaching. Now, I guess you could say for a lot of my classes have been sociology, so it's been a lot of opinion based. But I also take a lot of electives because I have way too much free time, and I just like to just take random classes just because. But before I switched over to poli-sci as my major, I took like 3 or 4 Rimonelli classes. And Rimonelli is someone who you have a class with them at 11 o'clock, and then you'll have a class with them again at like 2, and 10 minutes in the class, he'll be standing against the whiteboard, and he'll just like start talking, and then he'll just slowly fall off, and like he'll fall asleep for a solid 10 minutes, and then he'll just wake up and have a sudden burst of energy and just start talking to the class again, and then just pick up right where he left off. I'm like, I don't know if he has narcolepsy, to where he just falls asleep, wakes up, falls asleep, wakes up, because he does that like 4 or 5 times in class, and like it's the funniest thing ever to watch him just stand against the whiteboard, and he'll just slouch over and then just chin on his chest and just fall asleep. It's hilarious watching him teach class. He's a really good teacher, though. I recommend anybody taking him.
Yeah, at least for the one class I went to Ravenelli, he seemed like a good guy.
He's also a very movie-heavy class. At the end of class, he'll recommend like 4 or 5 movies. It's like, yeah, to further watch this or further learn about this, just watch this movie. And like 1 week, because I always have classes with him Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 1 week we literally watched 3 different movies in his class. We watched like Rambo one day. We watched a Chevy Chase movie.
Spies Like Us.
And then we watched a Steven Seagal movie, and it's just like, what are we even doing with class? It's basically just turned into a movie review. We watch the movie, write a report, turn it in, get an A, and then go home. Like, I highly, highly, highly recommend you taking this class if you just want to just have an easy class, learn about some history and some international relations type stuff between countries, but mainly just to watch movies. But that's more my lighthearted side of classes. I like them. This semester's a lot better than last semester. I hated last semester. Last semester was a flaming pile of dog shit. You know that meme where the dog's just sitting on his chair and everything's on fire, and the second picture of him is just like, I'm fine. This is fine. Yeah, that's kind of how my classes were first semester. It's like, everything sucks, everything's on fire, and then, oh well, I'll just get my classes done and over with.
Well, I mean, that's the reality of college. It's you go to class.
College is
If you find out that your
hell,
professor doesn't
but
take,
then it's fine.
if you find out your professor doesn't take roll, then you show up every now and then, if you really want to, or if you're like me and you take either a maximum amount of credit hours just to make you feel like you're actually being a decent student. Like you go to every class.
Or a decent human being.
Yeah. Like I have 5 classes and I feel like I'm being a slacker, even though I don't require me to.
Give me that look, faggot.
Even though it doesn't require me to do much, like I could probably take 4 or 5 credit out or 4 or 5 classes, and I'd be still be able to graduate on time. But I mean, if your professor doesn't take roll, a lot of people just don't show up for all the classes. Like, if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they'll show up like
Wednesday.
two.
2 out of the month.
Yeah, and if it's a Tuesday, Thursday, they'll just show up.
And they'll show up like the day
Tuesday.
before the review they'll show up for the review day for the test.
They'll show up
that's
on
about it.
They'll show up on Tuesday because it's generally the introduction to the topic, and like a little bit of discussion, and then Thursday's usually like just a discussion or something like that. And so um, especially if their teacher's really is predictable like that. People will.
Yeah, if they follow their syllabus, like literally day by day, week by week, you really wouldn't even have to show up to class. If you buy the book, you wouldn't even have to show up to class.
Yeah, or you could just try and find a PDF of it online.
Yeah, don't fall for the you have to have this book, because all of sophomore year I bought maybe 3 books for a total of like $40. I know it's not very much, but yeah, you really don't have to buy books to pass your classes. Like, I bought 3 books and I had total for the year 12 classes, and I passed with a 3.4 GPA. Given it could have been better if I probably would have bought all the books, but like, if you want to be an AB student, you really don't need the books. At least here at St. Leo. I don't know anywhere else, but that's just a little bit of advice.
I've had a teacher where I had
books aren't
you
necessary.
had to buy the book, and that was part of like a grade. And
I hate those teachers.
and
It was
then-
like, you have to bring
no.
your book to next class to get a participation
you have
points.
to
I'm
have-
like, really?
You have to have a book by
Really?
this time, and if you don't, then like you lose a certain amount of points. But the thing about this class is we never used it. So I still I have a book underneath my bed right now that is wrapped in the original plastic.
Yeah, I hate that. And like, the worst thing is, most of the time the original plastic, like books, are tear out like pages that you put into a binder, and you can't return it back to the bookstore for a resale, which is horrible, because the book might be like, I had a history book I bought last year. I didn't fucking need it. I got Wikipedia for that. You need to learn about Civil War, go to Wikipedia, you'll be fine. Cost me $110. Couldn't return it, even in the plastic, because it could have been tempered with.
Yeah,
It's so stupid.
that's why if you rent a book, you should go to Amazon or Chegg.
Yes,
And use
please
And-
save yourself money, time, and just stress. Go to Chegg, go to Amazon.
Or somewhere that's not the St. Leo bookstore.
Hell, you can even find your books at Books A Million. Like, I found 2 or 3 books at Books A Million. Probably find at Barnes and Noble. Like,
Yeah, and you can also
yeah, Barnes and Noble's a little expensive, but it's not expensive as your college bookstore.
can also get used books just about anywhere, and it's usually a lot cheaper. And if it's used, then it's like under $10, and you can keep it if you really want to, or you can try and resell it. And you don't have to deal with the St. Leo bookstore saying, "Oh, you bought it brand new? Oh, and you opened it? Oh, well, that kind of depreciates the value by 90%. Here's a nickel."
Yeah, sometimes, I remember freshman year, I bought every single book I needed. Horrible mistake. I was out like $400. I went back into the bookstore to resell my books. They wouldn't even take some of the books because they were an edition old. I'm like, 7th edition. Okay, I'm going to sell it back. 8th edition. They changed like 4 words in the entire book. Yeah, we're not buying it because it's 7th edition. We need 8th edition now. I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, just buy back the book. I don't need it. I'm just going to throw it away when I get home.
And also a good tip is if you have a class with a friend, or you're taking a class that a friend has already taken,
Ask them to save the book.
ask them to save the book, or if you're in the class with the friend, then say, hey, let's split the
Yeah,
cost
split
of
the
these
price.
books.
Like for Reid and I, we have a modern Middle East class. There's 4 books we needed to buy. I bought 2, he bought 2, and we split them out to where it's the same. Like, they equal the same price. And it's like, that's a really, really smart thing to do if you decide to take classes with friends. Split the cost and just split the books. You know, if you're doing a homework assignment with a friend that's taking the class at, say, 9 o'clock, and you have the class at 11 o'clock, just as you're passing by, just say, hey, can I have your book? And it's just so much easier. It saves you so much time. Because my high school always told me, oh yeah, books are the most important, and teachers really don't care because you're just a number. I'm like, well, that's only if you go to a really big school, and St. Leo's got a class size of 25, not 300. And the teachers care. They really, really do. The teachers really do like students and
For the most
everything.
part.
For the most part, yeah. And books are not as important as your high school counselor will make it out to be. And I'm pretty sure anybody that is listening to this will attest to that. That their high school counselor probably went to a big school to get their teaching and counseling degree. And whenever you come to St. Leo, it's completely different. Like, you will be one-on-one with your teachers, with your counselors, with your advisors, and it's really, really nice thing. That's one reason why I decided to come to St. Leo, is because the teachers were just very personal. I got to meet with career planning, which is fantastic. I advise anybody to go talk to them. But, like, that was a big draw to St. Leo. And it was completely different than what my brother experienced, and even he went to a small school, and what my high school taught me of what college was going to be like.
Hell, I just went to St. Leo because it was not in North Carolina. It had pretty strong academics, and it was actually just about as expensive as if I went to like NC State or another local school. So I mean, it actually was a lot cheaper than like a lot of schools could be if you go out of state, which was really nice, and it means that I can still go here.
I mean, I had golf scholarships lined up to pay me up north, but my parents were moving down here after I graduated, and I was just like, you know what? I probably won't have as much fun golfing on the college golf team. Yeah, I might have been good and got some, good tournament results and whatnot, but like, I'm so glad I decided not to go the college athlete route, in the sense of I got to make great friends. I've got to experience 10 times as much as what I would have experienced or what anybody told me I was going to experience. Yeah, they're all like, college is the greatest 4 years of your life. And so far, these last 3 years have been completely amazing. I wouldn't give anything back for it, but like, I think if I played college golf, then I would have been miserable. Yeah, I would have been playing golf and I would have loved that. But like, I wouldn't have made the friends I made. I'd have been stuck with the athletes and just having the ordinary common man or woman, not going to assume your gender on here, I wouldn't have had those friendships or those connections.
Plus,
like, it's just so nice.
It turns out that having free time is actually pretty great.
If you're an athlete, if you're an athlete, you can't sleep 4 hours a day.
Even
for taking a nap after class. Can you do that if you're a normal student? Hell yes, I do that every day.
Even though
I do not feel sorry about it.
Even though we might have too much free time on our hands,
Example
it's still
of this
great to actually
podcast.
know that I don't have really anything to do at the end of the day. I wake up, I get ready for the day, I go to class, I go to lunch, I possibly go to another class, and then wait around, possibly take a nap, go to dinner.
Yeah, this kid takes naps just to pass time. Like, that's how much given free time we have, but like, I envy you. I go to class till 5 o'clock every day. Except from Tuesday, Thursday, I only go 8 to 9, which is fantastic.
Sometimes I forego the nap and I play my guitar instead, but for the most part I choose the nap.
But so far, I think choosing the non-athlete route, for me personally, has been fantastic. I don't know about anybody else that's listening that's an athlete. You guys have probably great connections, great friendships on the sports teams, but I would much rather have the friends I made outside of the sports teams here. And hell, I mean, it's not like I'm not athletic. I play intramurals. I still go golf. I'm friends with some athletes, but not a lot of them. But that's just college.
Yeah, I mean, plus whenever you go to a party, like last night I drove some friends to I think a club.
Yeah, he was the responsible one last night.
Hell yeah, people trust
Mama
me.
would be so proud.
I think they would
give you a pat on the back.
I'd get a gold sticker. For my
A+
reward,
for effort, yeah.
For my reward, I don't get the wooden spoon. But anyway, so
no!
So,
Daddy, not the belt! No, hit me!
So I drive my friends to a club. Stop. People think this is a professional podcast.
Oh, please, this is not professional. The first 40 minutes might have been, but this last
No.
10, 15 ain't going to be anything special.
You're ruining it.
Oh.
We're going to lose listeners. I hate you now.
It's okay. I'm already forever alone with crippling depression.
So I drive them there, and then when you're at the party, it's not like people. Well, I mean, obviously people are like, oh, hey, you're on. Like they'll be like, oh, this guy's on the basketball team or the golf team or whatever team, and all that.
Shout out to golf. Look at that.
Yeah, well, there's a golfer there. That's why I brought it up.
Oh.
Yeah, and so
Most time people don't care.
it's
about
not
the
like
golf team.
like that's about all, and they'll ask, oh, how did your game go today or something like that. But for the most part, nobody really cares, and you're all basically the same person, which is actually
nice.
kind of different.
A lot of big school parties, I guess, are very clingy and cliche in the sense that they have their groups and that's it. Like with here at St. Leo, you go to a party, everybody's there, everybody's friends. Everybody knows each other, everybody's having a good time. Where I think if you went to like a big school, everybody'd just be like, oh, I'm only going here because because such and such here, or this person's here. And you really don't get that vibe here at St. Leo, which is nice.
Plus, like in high school, like you would like everyone held on to like their identities a lot more. Like all the athletes and stuff would be they would hold on to that a little bit more, and then the slightly nerdier kids would do their thing, and like you wouldn't see a whole lot of mingling. I did like towards the end, but that was because of like our grade went to Costa Rica for a trip, and that brought everyone together.
I've seen some nerdy kids here be part of some mad ragers.
Dude, they LARP. We have LARP. Wait, for those who don't know what LARPing is, it's live action role playing.
Dude, we got a LARPer here on campus, and he is like
it's like a group
the
of them.
epitome of what I want to be if I was a nerd.
He's got a cape.
It's just fantastic.
He's got a legit like cloak, cape thing. He's got, I think, a wooden sword, and
he is Mr. Badass on campus.
I'm sure he has like deny calls from girls like on the daily. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, nobody aren't like the athletes. Like they kind of hang out with each other a little bit, but like as the party goes on, they wind up just walking around and sort of talking to people, which is actually kind of refreshing because you realize when you get to college that people are people and that everybody
just wants to just have fun, just live life,
and get just absolutely wasted.
Okay.
Fucking wasted, man. Dude, man.
Fucking savage.
I went to a party last night, man. I got baked out of my mind, man. It was so...
Like, the amount of weed that I have smelt at parties. Like, if third-hand smoke was possible... I know second-hand's a real thing. But, like, to go beyond second-hand smoke... Like, just to look at somebody and get high... Like, that's third-hand smoke, I believe. Just to look at somebody and just like... Bruh, I'm fucking gone. Like... That's how much weed there is at some of these parties. Which is fantastic in the sense of you see people do stupid things or you just see them just completely slouched and just be gone. Which is hilarious. Also scary, but... And
it's also kind of funny how, like, there's never, like, an organized effort, but there's always, like, a designated, like, a...
Weed zone.
Like, yeah, there's, like, a weed zone. Kind of like whenever you go to class... And there's like
it's like a dance circle at like a prom.
It's the unspoken rule in classes of like once you sit in your first seat in the first week of class, like that's it. That's your quote unquote assigned seat.
See, I see it as like somebody that has gum. The second somebody passes out gum, everybody goes to them.
As soon as you open the packet, you have all the people that want gum near you, and you're off in your own.
Plus 3 or 4 teachers down the hall wanting gum.
I haven't seen any teachers or professors at a party, which is probably a really good thing.
I could see a couple teachers at a party. There's a couple I have in mind and be like, throw a rager. Reynolds could just throw a rager, man.
I have been invited to.
Man, he's a good guy. He's a great guy.
I have been invited to a couple professors' houses for like a class get together or like so like I've been to Reynolds' house because he said he would have a cookout for our honors class. I've been to my Russian professor's house several times because she invites all the students that are taking the Russian language classes, whether it's Russian 1 or 2 or in my case, it was 3, and now it's going to be 4. She invites everyone, and we eat Russian food and all that, and those are the only times really. But I mean,
Dude, the Russian food that he brought back from his professor's house last year for that class was the most dank Russian beet soup I've ever had in my life. And I hate beets, but my God, this soup tasted like heaven. It was euphoric.
So if you want to make it, just look up borscht, B-O-R. It's probably spelled S-C-H, but you could probably get away with just
It's so
SH.
good. I highly recommend anybody just trying that shit. Oh,
Or just take the Russian language class at St. Leo, and you'll wind up
with Professor Sarajevo.
yeah, Sarajevo. Iona Sarajevo. Actually, she recently just got her tenureship. So,
Oh, damn.
yeah, so I was actually there when she got the phone call because it was in the middle of our class. It was kind of funny. She looks at the phone and then she sees it's the secretary of the president of the school, and she's like, "I have to take this." Like, "Oh no, that's fine." And so then she's talking. She's like, "Oh, thank you very much." And so then she tells me afterwards
It
she
was
got
so
taken.
casual. She's like, yeah, I knew I was going to get that. She's like, yeah, F with me. I know what's good. But, so I hope you guys enjoyed this little college edition. It's St. Leo is definitely a place of interesting people, interesting opinions, and just a very, I guess you could say, weird in a good way of just of what it really is just a big old mashup of ideas and people.
It's a positive weird.
I mean, there are some setbacks, but
There are
for the most part, I'd say
weird.
70-30, 80-20.
Yeah.
Good, like good
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Because the good definitely outweighs the bad here, but the bad is definitely noticeable. Like the other day, this last little story, I went to the library to go steal some paper because
Oh my god.
because we need some paper to print, and it costs money to print in color, and I don't want to print in color at the library to pay 10 cents. I'm a broke ass college kid. I don't want to do that, even though I have a coin jar in my room. But so I went down to the library to go down to the computer lab, and I didn't really ask, but I just went ahead and said, just sat in the room and started working on some paper. And what the fuck is wrong with your
I'm
face?
sorry.
You doing a Snapchat
I can't-
filter over there?
I can't help it. It's just the way my face is.
I need to fix that. But I was sitting in there, and this assistant that's working in one of the offices down there comes into the room and he goes, "What are you doing down here?" And I'm like, "I'm working on a paper because I don't want to be interrupted, because upstairs there's like 15 or so people working on computers." And I'm like, "I really don't want to be interrupted when I work. I just like to be completely isolated." So I'm like, "I'm just going to write some paper. I'm writing a paper." And she goes, "That's not a good enough reason. Get out of the library." And I got kicked out of the library because I wanted to be alone. And given that wasn't really the reason, but like, I figured it was a good enough reason. You don't want to be bothered, so you go to the computer lab and you want to write a paper. No interruptions, just all by yourself. Lady kicked me out because I wanted to be alone. Wasn't good enough of a reason. So that's my last little story about St. Leo. But well, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to our college edition, as previously stated. Gave you a little insight as to what St. Leo is, what we go through on a daily basis, the goods and bads. But we'll hand out our little social media stuff, where you can find us. You can find us on Twitter at JDBG Podcast.
Feel free to text us questions if you want us to answer anything weird or stupid, or
Yeah.
just have a genuine question to ask. us.
Any questions we'll just text us, message us on Facebook. We also put up and share the podcast on our Facebooks. We put it up on YouTube at Just Dudes Being Guys. So if you can't follow us on SoundCloud, where this is going up at, it's up on YouTube. And we also just got approved for iTunes and Google Play. So you can find us on the iTunes store at Just Dudes Being Guys. And you can find us by our spiffy little photo that we have. And the same thing with Google Play. So be sure to follow us on SoundCloud, YouTube. Comment some questions to us. We'd love to hear your questions, some input. We'll bring it up on the show. Follow us on Twitter. Send us anything, really. Just any type of feedback, questions, comments, concerns. Send them our way.
And you can find me on RuneScape at Southpaw41.
Ooh, RuneScape's a classic. If you want to find out my very fun and adventurous life, you can follow me on Snapchat at DT95. Feel free to do that if you want, but you really don't have to. Mom would be proud though if I make friends. But thanks guys for listening to Just Dudes Being Guys.